Welcome to CLESTalk, Law for Sustainable Cities, a podcast about cities, law, and environmental sustainability. This podcast engages in different urban and environmental legal themes and features special guests, including our CLES researchers. For those who may not know, CLES is a research chair under the National Research Foundation's Research Chair Initiative and operates under the Faculty of Law at the Northwest University in South Africa. I am Dr. Musangaza, a postdoctoral research fellow at CLES, and I'm your host for this session. Our topic for this discussion is Fixing Our Cities, the potential role of civil society organizations in municipal service delivery. Service delivery remains a pressing issue in many South African cities, with infrastructure, waste management, and other essential services often falling short. As municipalities face growing pressure, civil society organizations or CSOs have stepped in to help. But what is their role? What legal and governance frameworks guide these partnerships? And how do we ensure that service delivery remains inclusive and equitable? To help us unpack these questions, I am joined by our special guest today, Mr. Krisdan Bezuidenhout. Chris is a lecturer at the Faculty of Law at the Northwest University. He holds an LLB from the University of South Africa and a Master's of Law degree in Environmental Governance from Northwest University. He is a PhD candidate and has spent the past 3 years as a researcher here at CLES. Chris is an admitted legal practitioner and serves as the NGO Childline Northwest chairperson and the provincial representative on the National Board of Childline South Africa. Krisdan, welcome to CLESTalk. We are delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me on today's show, Wendy.
All right, let's begin with the bigger picture. So around the world, civil society organizations play a crucial role in bridging gaps and providing essential services where government service delivery falls short. In South Africa, this is becoming increasingly common. So from your research, what motivates CSOs to take on these responsibilities and what impact have they had on municipal service delivery in the country?
Thank you, Wendy. Your question essentially has two parts. Firstly, relating to why CSOs are involved with municipal service delivery. And secondly, the impact of this involvement. Looking at the why of the matter, municipalities are not a monolith. They are different in relation to the challenges that they encounter and the needs of citizens regarding service delivery. Because of this, there will be different reasons why organizations might want to get involved. That being said, from an empirical research that I've done with CSOs, what I've picked up is that in most cases, it relates to the underperformance or non-performance by municipalities regarding the services that they are providing to their constituents. The dissatisfaction of citizens when it comes to these municipal failures normally manifests as service delivery protests. Today, there is actually a taxi association strike underway in Potchefstroom and Klerksdorp, with one of the key issues that are being protested being the condition of municipal roads. It may also manifest as rate boycotts, where communities withhold the payment of rates and taxes because of the poor state of municipal services, and the idea of why must I pay taxes where I'm not receiving high quality services. Another manifestation has also been where communities drag municipalities to court for non-compliance with their constitutional obligations, as is evidenced by certain court cases such as Kitlageng River, unemployment, people's movement, and various others. But between these positions of civil unrest and judicial redress, communities are also coming to the fore in trying to better local circumstances. They are fixing potholes, cutting municipal grass, repairing infrastructure, attending to beach and park cleanups, as well as various other functions that essentially are the responsibility of local government. The second part of the question regarding the impact, I guess that depends on who you ask to a large degree. For me, I think it has a profound impact on the way and how we think about municipal services. And let's take social services, for example. The Department of Social Development often takes hands with organizations. As you mentioned, I sit on the board of one of these organizations, but actually the responsibility to provide services still rests with the department, although Childline operates within the space. However, this willingness to take hands with non-state actors has not translated to the local sphere of government as far as the rendering of services is concerned. And in many cases, municipalities actually try to actively block these initiatives from occurring. The recent case from the end of last year comes to mind, where a councillor was actually summoned to appear in court for painting faded road signs within the town. Nevertheless, this mind shift is not seeing ourselves as passive end users of services, but as co-creators within the service delivery dialogue. That for me is the impact that is most important.
Thank you, Chris. Very interesting. So, in South Africa, one of the most debated issues recently has been the City of Tshwane's decision to review its 68 service delivery memorandums of understanding or use, including the AfriForum partnership. What are the key governance considerations when municipalities enter agreements with civil society organizations?
Before I speak to the institutional governance arrangements, I think it's pertinent that I highlight the concept of collaborative governance as the fundamental construct of how these services by CSOs should function. As the name suggests, collaborative governance is about parties working together collaboratively. And I use this concept to make sense of what is currently happening within service delivery spaces within different municipalities. The concept basically speaks to diverse stakeholders working together to achieve a common goal that cannot be achieved alone. This is what we see within service delivery, and it's becoming increasingly obvious that municipalities are struggling and cannot achieve their mandate alone. Under this umbrella of collaborative governance, I highlight three modes of collaboration. Firstly, co-design, where the community and local government come together to decide how they will go about achieving service delivery objectives. Secondly, co-production, which speaks to the actual implementation of services by different stakeholders. And thirdly, co-creation, which is a combination of the aforementioned modes, seeing non-state actors involved with the entire service delivery process from design through implementation and evaluation. These modes require an enabling legal and policy environment which provide CSOs with a platform for active citizenry within the within the municipal service delivery space. This environment then also speaks to the institutional governance arrangements for these CSOs. Specifically in relation to the city of Tshwane in 2021, the Metro adopted an internal municipal service district bylaw in terms of Section 85 read with 86 of the Systems Act. The bylaw provides for the provision of supplementary services within a designated area within the municipality, meaning the city must still provide services, but residents can pay a surcharge on their rates and tax for these top-up services that will then be provided by the CSO. This is obviously subject to an application process, which includes public participation and submission of various documentation, including a business plan. The bylaw specifies that the CSO within a designated area must also be registered as a non-profit organization under the MPO Act, placing another layer of complexity to the application process. The city has in 2023 also adopted a more streamlined process known as CUP, which is an acronym for Community Upliftment Precincts, which allows CSOs to undertake specific activities within the municipality, but also places specific limitations on the services that can be provided under these CUP initiatives. One of these limitations is the need for the applicant to be a juristic person. This places another level of complexity there in relation to the formation of these CSOs. However, it's not necessary for them then to be registered as an NPO under the Act. Prior to CUP and the bylaw, provincial legislation under the Gauteng City Improvement District Act of 97 provided for these collaborative arrangements, but the Act's constitutionality would later be called into question under the West Dunes property case. This required then the reevaluation of the environment. So I think that the review of these MOUs should be undertaken to bring them in line with the new enabling framework rather than trying to terminate collaboration between these CSOs and the municipality. Decisions taken by the municipality per these MOUs are subject to the promotion of administrative justice. And where a decision is made by the municipality, reasons should be provided to the CSOs, and where they are aggrieved, an appeal process should be available. And where all else fails, essentially, judicial review should be the next step. However, there are obvious financial implications to bringing a matter to court, and this places strain on an organization that already depends on public funding to provide services within their community. This being said, there are institutional governance structures in place through these type of bylaws or other initiatives that are taken by municipalities, but the obligation still rests with local government to provide services to their constituents.
Okay, so in terms of South African law, municipalities are responsible for service delivery, right? Yet we see an increasing reliance on non-state actors to perform these duties. Do you think a more explicit legal framework is then needed to regulate municipal CSO partnerships? And if so, what do you think that framework might look like?
As I mentioned, national legislation provides pathways for the establishment of an enabling environment for modes of collaborative governance, such as internal municipal service districts. Another is special rating areas under Section 22 of the Municipal Property Rates Act. These two mechanisms are essentially the same. However, both of these rely on municipalities to establish the framework that tailors these initiatives to local conditions, meaning that municipalities can decide not to adopt a bylaw. This would essentially leave CSOs with limited options as far as collaboration is concerned. The need for collaboration has been on the policy radar of South Africa for many years. If one looks at the white paper on municipal service partnerships, the white paper on local government, the IUDF, even the National Development Plan, they all speak to the need for active citizenry and the involvement of communities within service delivery. In relation to how it should look, right, I think at a minimum there should be national guidelines provided by COCTA to guide municipalities and how they facilitate and nurture these initiatives. I think they will only grow in number as service delivery declines. They should include timelines for the development of bylaws or resolutions that give effect to these initiatives, as well as take cognizance of the diversity of organizational structures that may potentially be involved with these modes of collaboration.
So, one of the main concerns surrounding CSO involvement in municipal service delivery is the issue of equity. Some critics argue that these partnerships often benefit specific communities while leaving others behind. So, how can we ensure that third party service delivery models are more inclusive and equitable across all urban areas? Are there models or policies that municipalities can adopt?
I think this is a very important question, and what I'll try to answer. Definitely, when considering modes of collaboration, the issue of equity must take center stage. Service delivery must move beyond just consulting communities towards genuine community ownership. This means supporting them to build their own capacity. However, with such power comes responsibilities. Um, and there should be a clear, transparent, and accountable governance structure with clear mechanisms for oversight when it comes to the development of partnerships with communities and government. So basically, how I see it is that um, within the suite of local government legislation, there are various public participation mechanisms built into it. I think of tools such as the IDP process, which calls for co design of municipal planning. But because citizens are not empowered, they are unable to actively drive change through this process. So, what I found within my research is that there's a definite lack of initiatives stemming from marginalized communities, and this might be attributed to various factors such as historical disadvantages, socioeconomic factors, and institutional barriers. I think of the internal municipal service districts, for example. This is a very complicated arena within which CSOs must function with a lot of bureaucratic red tape. Some of these organizations actually have millions of rands flowing through them during a given financial year, and these funds are then used to provide surplus services within these areas. But now, the money that the municipality is saving by not having to, for example, fix 100 street lights in a specific area, this money can then be used to fix street lights in an under-resourced area. But as we know, this is not necessarily the case in many instances. But still, this is something that I grapple with in my study, as collaborative governance should not be used as a pathway to widen the distance between the rich and the poor. I think that even in municipalities, there is definitely a need to be conscious and deliberate about strategies to actively address these disparities, including targeted resource allocation towards marginalized communities, capacity building programs specifically dedicated to address their unique challenges, and the creation of accessible platforms for their participation. The municipality should also move beyond a one size fits all approach and embrace different strategies that acknowledge the diverse needs and capabilities of these different communities. I think the success of collaborative governance hinges on its ability to promote equity and social justice. And regardless of a community's background, give them the opportunity to shape their own future.
With municipal budgets under strain and service backlogs in essential services growing, do you see the rise of hybrid governance models where cities, businesses, and civil society co manage urban services?
This is already something that is taking place throughout South Africa, obviously at different scales, ranging from grassroots cleanup campaigns to multi-million rand projects. But CSOs are definitely working with municipalities. Look, cities are facing unprecedented pressures currently. Budgets are shrinking, populations are growing, and the demand for services are becoming more complex. The old ways of municipalities doing things on their own is simply not sustainable anymore. However, there needs to be an alignment across local government of how community driven services will be governed, facilitated, and nurtured to benefit South Africa in its developmental ambitions. At the end of the day, it's about leveraging collective capacity. It's about finding innovative ways to deliver services more efficiently and effectively. And importantly, it's about building stronger and resilient communities. I think service delivery is very much a wicked problem. And because of this, we need to address it in many different ways, as there's no one size fits all solution to these wicked problems. And I believe that collaborative governance has the potential to be one such way in which we can help shape the cities of tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights on this crucial topic. It is clear from our discussion today that while civil society organizations are playing an increasingly significant role in service delivery, which Chris has described as a wicked problem, many governance and equity questions still need to be addressed. And as we have heard from Case today, is no one size fits all solution to this problem. Thank you so much to our listeners for tuning in to this episode of CLESTalk. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, and interact with us and our guests on our various social media platforms. We encourage you to share thoughts on today's discussion and continue the conversation with us on X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And most importantly, let's keep this conversation alive in our communities, local government meetings, and advocacy spaces. Service delivery is a shared responsibility, and how we navigate these partnerships will shape the future of our cities. Thank you for listening to CLESTalk, Law for Sustainable Cities.